But healing sometimes does look like maybe a medication. Healing does sometimes look like, hey, you have to get a surgery. Healing does, do you see what I'm saying? Like it comes in different packages, and I don't want us to discard or disbelieve the words that the Lord is saying over us and promising to us just because it's showing up in a package that we did not want or did not expect.
Cute, but dumb. Cute, but stupid.
So I go to I will not name them. If you really want to know after I tell the rest of my story, you can DM me, message me privately. I'm not trying to get sued, even though everything I'm saying is just factual and true. But I went to a local hospital in Cleveland, and the first available appointment, because I was like, I already know the game. Right? Like I already know what they're going to do. They're going to tell me I need to get a pelvic ultrasound. They need to see what's going on, potentially progress it to an MRI. Like I already knew what the steps were going to be. So they're like, well, the first available is not with an actual OBGYN. And I knew I had to start with an OBGYN, even though I didn't want to finish with an OBG. I'm like, I just got to get in the door and get this testing and like figure out what's going on. So they're like, it's a like OBGYN physician's assistant. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I make the appointment with her because I was like first available. Again, I go through the whole thing with her. I'm like, hey, I'm having labor contractions. Like, I mean, this is like absolutely, utterly ridiculous. And like, I mean, it's bad. I've almost passed out, like all the things. I told her about the urination problem. So she was actually the first doctor that's like, let me just run some labs on your pee. So I peed in a cup and I, gave it to them. They're checking obviously to make sure like there's no infection, which there's not. Everything came back fine on that, by the way. But, basically, I told her everything. I was like, they've diagnosed me with PCOS, but like it's getting bad. It's getting worse, the whole thing. And so she does a pelvic exam. I've had a pelvic exam because she asked, I told her I haven't gotten a PAP done since 2018 because, again, there's no reason for me to get a PAP done. Like, this is not why I'm here, but I understand it's their protocol. They got to do it. Okay, whatever. So I tell her, she's like, okay, yeah, we'll do one just to, again, test and be safe and make sure everything's good. So she's doing that in the pelvic exam. I'm in a lot of pain. Now, keep in mind, too, again, TMI, I don't care. I have not been able to use a tampon in easily probably 2+ years. I've not used a tampon because it makes my cramping way worse. And it really exacerbates the already bad cramping that I've been experiencing. So I don't use tampons ever at this point. So keep in mind, this is the first time since like 2018 that like someone's doing a pelvic exam, the pap smear. I'm in like quite a lot of pain. Like I'm like they're never supposed to be comfortable. Like no one would ever describe a pap exam or a pelvic exam as comfortable, but they're not supposed to hurt to the point that I'm like gripping the table. I'm like kind of yelling like ow, 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 ow. I have like tears starting to form in my eyes. I'm in a lot of pain. And I'm like, and she doesn't say anything, but internally I'm like, I don't remember this hurting like this back in 2018. Like, what is going on? So she orders the pelvic ultrasound. So she orders a normal ultrasound and a pelvic ultrasound. That's like where they have to go internally and do it. And I was like, great, that's what I came for. Like, amazing. So I get that scheduled pretty quickly, thank God. Got in, did it. The girl who did it was so fun. We somehow talked about like Veggie Tales or something. Like it was great. Love the girl who gave me my ultrasound. And basically the results come back and they're like, there's definitely like massive cysts on specifically your left ovary. Okay. They're like, we need to do an MRI to see more. Okay. And I was like, but again, I'm like, I've had cysts before. So like, what does that mean? I've had like larger cysts before that they, even all the way back in 2018, they had me go for an ultrasound again to see, because basically the one was so big that once they get to a certain size, they're like, do we have to go in and remove it? But then my OBGYN at the time was like, well, if it bursts on its own, which doesn't this sound like so much fun, is to just have cysts like bursting within you. Isn't that so fun, girls? Yeah, it's so great here. But they're like, basically, like if it bursts on its own when you have your monthly period, then like we're not going to go in and surgically remove it. Okay, cool. And that's what mine was apparently doing. Wonder why my cramps are so painful. Wow, shocking. I could never imagine. So basically, then she's like, we need to we can't see as much as we want to see with that, so we should order you an MRI. Okay, fine, cool. So she goes, but I can't order you an MRI because I'm like a PA, I'm not. And I was like, okay. I thought that was kind of weird, but she's like, you have to make an appointment with an actual OBGYN in our department to then order you the MRI. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I have to wait again another 2 to 3 weeks for this appointment with this woman. I just, again, whatever the first available was, because I'm like, I'm just trying to get like answers so like I can figure out like how I'm gonna. I didn't have a plan. I just was like, I just need to kind of know what's going on because this is obviously getting worse. Again, had a very painful period at the end of October. It was, yeah. But mid-October, so mid-October I went, or early October I went to this new OBGYN who could order me the MRI. And as soon as she came in, like I knew something was like off. And again, people can call me crazy. People can say I over spiritualize things. I felt some type of way. And then I told my friends about my entire experience there. And they, especially I remember Allie P immediately was like, like, no, something like that was demonic. Like that was like a spiritual entity. Like, yeah. So this woman comes in, she's just very kind of like crass, very like abrasive, not very empathetic. Again, I'm telling her I'm literally like giving birth to a baby that's not there. I'm having contractions, the whole thing. So I'm just like, not really, no sympathy, no empathy. She pulls out my thing. She's like, yeah, like you have like hemorrhaging cysts. You have like 3 hemorrhaging cysts on your left ovary. Okay, well, anytime, I'm not a medical professional, but anytime I've heard the word hemorrhaging, it's usually not in a good context. Like, no one ever uses that word in a good way. So I'm like, okay, like, that sounds concerning to me. She doesn't seem concerned. But no, nobody in this entire process seems concerned. And, so she's like, yeah, like, we should order you an MRI. And keep in mind, my entire thing was like, just get her to sign off on the MRI and get out. Get the MRI and get out. Like, that was all my concern was at this point. Like, I'm like, I don't care what this lady says. I don't care. Like, because again, the minute she walked in the room, I just was like, And I was reading my Bible. I brought this Bible with me and I was reading it while I was waiting for her because the first time I went, I waited like 20, 30 minutes for the person to come in the room to see me. So I was like, I'm going to bring my Bible. I need to do Bible reading anyway. I'm going to try to like calm my butt down because this whole thing's stressful. I'm reading in the room. She walks in. Immediately, I felt like a little in the spirit, those who know, y'all know what I'm talking about, where you're just, that discernment just kind of like something just shifted as soon as this person walked in, not in a good way. And so I basically then go on to have the worst OBGYN interaction, the worst appointment I've ever had in my life, where she is pushing. And this is where I say the term even almost bullying me into taking birth control as if that's the only answer. She's like, well, all we can do is like birth control. All we can do is birth control. Meanwhile, they're saying we need to get an MRI to see what's going on better, but she's already like concluding like all we can do is birth control. And I felt like I remained and handled myself very calmly and very politely, even though internally I was screaming. I was like, I was on birth control before and I had a really bad experience. And she does not ask me a single question. She doesn't ask me which one it was. She doesn't ask me what my bad experience, quote unquote, was. Like, she just assumes. And I said, like, I've, there's a lot of things I've heard about birth control, like overall, like it's just, I don't think it's good for women. I don't think it's good for fertility. Like whatever I kind of said or implied, like I'm really not interested in birth control. Like, can you please just order the MRI and can I just like be on my way? And she goes, what's your highest level of education? And I was like, I'm confused because like we're talking about birth control and then she just like says that. I was like, a bachelor's degree? And she goes, but not in medicine, not in science. I was like, no, like so confused because I'm like, I'm not catching on quickly why she's asking me this question. And she goes, okay, so you can't just believe everything that you see on TikTok. I'm a doctor and like she goes and I'm just like, I literally, when I tell y'all it was by the grace of the Holy Spirit alone that I did not punch this woman out. Do you understand as a patient who, again, you are just meeting me for the first time. You have no idea that I've been dealing with this for 9 years. You have no idea the amount of pain I'm in because you're not asking. You have no idea the amount of bad side effects I've had from medications because you're not asking. You're not asking any questions. I say that I don't feel comfortable going on a prescription medication, and the audacity and the nerve then is her saying to me, what's your highest level of education? Oh, you're not a doctor. Basically, shut up and stop watching TikTok. It's like, lady, I don't even have TikTok. I'm not even on TikTok. Like, I wanted to go off on this woman. And when I came home and I told like my family and Aaron and my friends, like, everyone was livid. Like as soon as I told them what happened in this appointment, everyone I think was ready to throw down. And what's crazy is she has like really good like reviews on the website. Like when you look her up on the hospital's website, she's like a 4.7 rating or something. And I saw that like a couple weeks ago and I was just like, literally how? Like the way if I had the energy or the time to like file like a formal complaint that I would do that so fast. This woman was not kind to me. She made me do another pelvic exam. This pelvic exam, I cried. It hurt so bad. Like I'm like, I'm like, ow, ow, ow. Like she's doing another pelvic exam. I'm like kind of screaming. I'm like, tears are running down my face. Like it is painful. I'm like, okay. Again, nobody addresses that. I get through the appointment. I was so upset. I mean, I think I literally just like I sat in my car and just cried because I literally was scared that if I started crying when she stepped out of the room for me to like get ready for the pelvic exam from like how upset I even was that like she was going to like make fun of me or like bully me. But literally she spent like, I don't know, 10 plus minutes like explaining to me birth control, which she wasn't lying. That's the problem, guys, is she wasn't lying about what it does. She was like, it basically like tricks your body or stops this like signal in your brain from like fully like ovulating so you don't have like a period. And so like you basically block your body from having a period. And that's that's doctors' best answer to women who are in severe period pain or irregular cycles. That is their best answer to us is, well, we'll give you a synthetic lab-made pill to stop your body from having a period. What? Like, when you sit here and you think that through, again, that's not normal. I'm a woman. I don't want your modern day feminist bullshit, and I don't want your birth control pills. I want to be how God created me and be able to do what my body was designed to do without the interference of prescription medication. Okay? It makes me infuriated. It makes me want to flip my lid. But I had to just suck it up, and I didn't want to clap back because I honestly, guys, was scared that if I like tried to stand up for myself or if I even got like a slight tone in my voice towards her about her trying to preach and push birth control on me after I had already said multiple times, no, thank you. Like, I'm not interested in that. No, thank you. Like, again, I was trying to be very polite, but I was scared that if I wasn't, she wasn't going to file the order for the MRI. And that is just not what should be happening in an exam room between a patient and a doctor. That should not, like, there should not be a fear in your patient that you're not going to fulfill a medically necessary order for a test if they don't agree with you, or if they like want to assert their boundary that they don't want something done. It was the worst appointment and the worst doctoral experience I've ever had in my life. And so I got through that. She orders the MRI. I get the MRI done probably like 2 weeks later. I had to go get it at the clinic. And at Cleveland Clinic is where I got the MRI. And that was fine. Like, oh, well, no, that wasn't fine. So little tidbit. Again, I'm just sharing everything with you guys because, and again, this episode is going to probably be 2 parts. That's fine. I don't care. It's like, you guys need to know this because this was utterly infuriating to me. So nobody from the clinic did anything wrong. So I go, she's like, I have the order from the other hospital. Because the other hospital wasn't going to be able to get me in until Christmas Eve. And I was like, I cannot wait that long to get this. That's insane. So I was able to go with the order to the Cleveland Clinic, and they were able to do it within like 2 weeks, which I was like, that's a lot better of a timeline. So anyway, she has my order. She's prepping me. She's putting me in the tube. They got to do the pelvic MRI. And there was a slight question, and they have to be really careful of, I was supposed to be given one with dye and one with, or with contrast, one without contrast. She has to follow the order to the T, because if she doesn't, she could get in trouble, and I totally understand that. But I think because it came from a different hospital system, there was a little confusion, so she was just trying to get a hold of somebody to confirm the order at some point. So she pulls me out. She's kind of talking to me as she's waiting for like a phone call back or clarification on the order. And she's like, well, why are you here? And I was like, well, like, we're kind of suspecting like it might be endometriosis. But again, they won't diagnose you with endometriosis. 1, certainly not without the MRI. And 2, they typically don't even diagnose you unless you get the laparoscopic surgery. That is at, like, once they're actually surgically inside of your pelvic area is when they'll actually diagnose you with endometriosis, once they actually can see the endometrioma. So it's very hard to get an endometriosis like diagnosis, if that makes sense. Or people seem very hesitant or lackadaisical in actually giving it. But I said, like, from what's going on, like, because so basically in this time period between July, August, September, and now we're into October, I had been doing a little bit of my own research. And when I tell you that I hit almost every single qualifying like symptom of endometriosis, when I Googled it, I was like, yeah, I don't think I have PCOS. And I knew there was that little within me back in 2018 when they diagnosed me with PCOS, but they're like, well, you don't really fit all the symptoms. I never truly felt like that was my diagnosis. I just that's what everyone told me, that's what, and like, that was the best anyone could do. But I never felt like that was right. And I started researching as things were getting worse and progressing. I was trying to get this testing done, endometriosis a little bit for myself. And I'm like, oh, you know what else comes with endometriosis? Not only just like the really bad cramping that I've been experiencing and nausea and things like that, but I was like, bladder issues with urgency of urination, frequency of urination, things like that. I'm like, I've had this for years and nobody put 2 and 6 together. So I'm like, so I literally started thinking back in like September, I was like, have I had endometriosis this whole time and was I misdiagnosed? So basically I'm in this, okay, so fast forward, I'm in this tube in the MRI. She pulls me out because she's asking me and she's like, why are you here? Because it's a pelvic MRI. And I was like, well, we're thinking it's endometriosis. They found these cysts on my left ovary, whatever, on the ultrasound. And she goes, oh, so are you getting like the vaginal gel? And I look at her like she's crazy. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, no one said anything to me about that. The only thing I knew was I was supposed to get an MRI with and without contrast. And she's like, well, and she just kind of goes, ugh, like scoffs a little bit, not at me, but she's like, she's like, the doctors don't even know about this. And this MRI tech at Cleveland Clinic is telling me something that she's claiming most OBGYN doctors who are ordering these MRIs for their patients don't even know about. That there is some sort of like gel that is supposed to be inserted into the female to do this type of MRI for this type of ailment, to be found, where it highlights differently areas, and it goes deeper into areas that may have hidden endometrioma, that may not just be on the surface of the ovary or the surface of the uterus. Because this is the thing I'm finding out about endometriosis is it spreads. So it can spread to areas of your bladder, of your rectum, of your like gallbladder, of your, like endometrioma is the type of like cell that it is, and it can spread kind of like a cancer. It doesn't just stay in one spot. And so she goes, but some of those can be kind of deeper rooted and underneath, other organs and things, and it's harder to see. She said this gel is actually supposed to like make it show up better on the MRI and highlight if there's like hidden endometrioma. Not one single doctor has ever said that to me. And again, keep in mind, this is like the second MRI I've gotten done for this, I believe. Like this ailment I'm saying. No one said that to me. And you have an MRI tech saying the doctors most of them don't even know about this. How does the doctor who's sending the patient for the testing not know about a crucial piece of said testing that would help them see what's actually going on that we're all suspecting it is? Do y'all like, I don't know if anyone else on the other side of this camera is as like flabbergasted and as floored and as pissed as I am, but like this is where I'm just like, what is our medical system? And like, what are we doing? And why would an OBGYN who's sending multiple women probably easily for these type of MRIs looking for these possible endometrioma not know about this gel that would help show that on the MRI? It's mind-blowing to me. And because my doctor didn't order it with that specific concoction, it's not like the MRI tech could give it to me. Even though the MRI tech is standing there seemingly knowing more than the doctor of like, oh, well, actually, if we gave you this, it would show up better for what you guys are looking for. She can't just make that call. She can't just make that decision. She has to follow the order from the doctor. But the doctor doesn't know that this exists. Okay, cool. So anyway, long story short, MRI comes back because one, I never wanted to talk to that doctor that I had the really bad appointment at the other hospital with again. But my results were in my chart for the MRI, but nobody called me. Cleveland Clinic kept telling me that my doctor who put the order in was supposed to call me to discuss the results. I never heard a peep from her office again. Nothing about the MRI. So I literally have an MRI with no one talking to me about the results. And yeah, I didn't call because I didn't want to talk to her about the results. But I called the clinic and they were like, sorry, like, because you don't have a doctor here, like, we can't tell you anything about the results. Like, it's just like you have to talk to the doctor that ordered it. I'm like, I don't want to talk to the doctor that ordered it. Like, I think there was a demon in the room with me when I was in that appointment. Like, but the Lord was also in that room with me. I do know that. I remember in that moment, like the Lord was, I felt tangibly like he was like, I'm here with you. I'm in this with you. And I was like, okay, as long as you're here, like I can deal with whatever. So all this to say, I have an MRI with no one to basically tell me. I literally end up sending it to one of my friends who like works in like medical testing for like work. She does so many different things. I think that's somewhat right. I'm sorry if I'm getting your job wrong. But I send it to her. I'm like, can you interpret any of this for me? Like, what's going on? Yeah, basically 3 massive cysts on the left ovary. That's all I know. Okay, so it basically confirmed what I already knew from the ultrasound. This isn't good. Okay. So then Allie P is seeing a functional medicine doctor in the area. And she goes, well, what if you call her and just see like if she can help you at all? Like you have the test results. We're pretty sure at this point that you have endometriosis. But again, literally, guys, this is the part I need to tell you. Literally on the scan for the MRI, it says endometriosis, none. None. Endometriosis, none in all caps. Okay. So she's like, you have the scans. Why don't you call like this functional medicine doctor that I'm seeing? Different than the functional medicine doctor I had been seeing. Okay, cool. So I call, I leave a message. She calls me back and I said, look, I'm going to be very blunt with you. You seem like a very nice woman. You're helping my friend. Love that. My friend's going for like gut issues to her. And I was like, you sound like a very nice woman, but I need somebody who like specializes and can actually help me with what is going on. I briefly ran her down, like what had been happening, the test results. I was on the phone with her for less than like 2 minutes saying all that. And the first thing out of her mouth is she's like, that's endometriosis. And I thought she misheard me. I said, no. Like I think you misheard me. Like on the MRI, it said endometriosis, none. And she goes, no, what you're describing is endometriosis. And I was like, I love how a doctor that I haven't seen and I've been on the phone with for 2 minutes was so quickly able to diagnose me, but like nobody else has wanted to use that word. The PA OBGYN didn't want to use that word. The OBGYN didn't want to use that word. Nobody wants to use that word. And now on the MRI, it says none. Okay, cool. So she's like, she's like, not that I can't help you, but she was basically like, yeah, I'm not like your girl. And I really appreciate her honesty in saying that because I was like, that's what I need to hear right now from someone is like, yeah, I'm not the doctor for you. Cool. She was like, if you were my sister, I would send you to this guy. So she gives me this name of this guy 2 hours, almost 2.5 hours away from where I live in the state of Ohio. And she's like, this is the regional specialist on endometriosis. Go to him. I was like, okay, never had I heard of this guy. It's in like a small town, small hospital system that I've never heard of before. So I was like, shoot, again, Lord, I'll do like whatever I got to do at this point. It's just debilitating. And so I call, I have to wait 3 months for an appointment. So this then brings me into January, was my appointment with him, January of 2026. Send my scans and even all that blood work from the Dutch test over to him, all that stuff. I just have to sit and wait for 3 months. Meanwhile, periods are still bad. I was at work in October. I almost passed out and threw up at the same time. I didn't know what was going on. I had to call Aaron to come get me from work because I was like, I don't think I should be driving. I was in so much pain. It was, again, I'm like, this is literally impeding like my life. Like I can't even like drive myself home from a job. I'm fed up. Like I remember I was on the phone with Allie P and they have a nursing mother's room, thank God, like where I was working. And I was in there just in the black with like a heating pad. Somebody found me. God bless the woman that I ran into in the bathroom. You know who you are if you see this. And she helped me get to like the mother's room and she knew someone who had a heating pad. I was on the phone with Allie P. I'm like crying and she's just like praying over me. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is ridiculous. I'm so tired of this. This is like debilitating to my life, all this stuff. Aaron comes and gets me from work. Thank God he was able to do that day. Drives me home. And then November, that was like that was like right at the end of October, beginning of November, so I was still having like a normal period, but like I'm not really bleeding twice a month. But then I was also like, I'm not bleeding twice a month. And like, that seems to be like when the periods are like really bad and like this contraction pain's happening. So like, it was like, I kind of tried one problem for another. I'm really trying to get to the end of the story, guys. I promise. I know this is so much, but again, I just like pray like the detail of this can help somebody because I have thought I don't fit endometriosis because of X, Y, and Z. I don't fit PCOS because of X, Y, and Z. Or it's just like, or I just never heard anybody saying that they've had contraction level pain on their period. Like if no one ever says that to you, you just think like I'm insane and like what is wrong with me? So again, I'm saying all this to try to help somebody else out there. So basically then November comes around, periods, like, because I had just came off that period. It was not great. Obviously, I was sick. And then, I was better a couple days later. No contraction level pain though, thank God. But then what was odd was we were driving back from my friend Michaela's. She lives hours south from where we do. And Faith and I were in the car driving back from visiting her for her birthday that weekend. And I went pee at the gas station. We get in the car. We start going down the highway. My entire, like from my hip all the way down my leg on my left side goes like numb. Like I cannot feel it. I'm in excruciatingly sharp pain in my lower abdomen. And I'm like, what is going on? Specifically on my left side at that point. And I'm driving. It's like half snow, half raining. It's dark out. Like we're just trying to get home. I look at Faith. I'm like, I don't know what is going on. And she's like, well, we can switch driving. But I was like, we had just stopped. So I'm like, maybe it'll pass, like whatever. It was like, again, that 2 to 3 day thing where like 2 days after that initial incident, that was on a Sunday that happened in the evening. I was like doubled over in pain, hurt to go to the bathroom. Like I couldn't stand up straight. My abdomen, it's like the same thing over again, but this time I wasn't bleeding. So that was like really scary because I wasn't on my period. I was ovulating though. And then my friend Becca was trying to help me the next day over the phone because I was like, I'm in so much pain. It's different than like even the period cramping. It's like very sharp, very, very sharp pain in my lower abdomen. And I learned this new thing. I don't think this is what happened to me, but I, to this moment, don't really know. I didn't know that there was such thing called an ovarian torsion, where basically, and again, I'm not trying to induce fear, but just the more knowledge you have, like the better equipped you are to handle things. It's just like, I didn't know that there's this thing where if you have cysts on your ovaries, the cyst can actually weigh the ovary down so much that the ovary twists and the like blood that flows to it to keep it working can actually get cut off because it's almost like, imagine like tying a balloon in like a knot at the top of a balloon. That's kind of like what it does because the weight of the cyst like flips it and it twists that blood flow to it, almost like pinches it. And if you don't get it taken care of pretty quickly, you can actually lose the ovary because of the lack of blood flow. And again, it's like I'm looking up the symptoms for that. Again, it's like half of the symptoms I'm having are in correlation with that. But I'm like, do I go to the ER? Do I go to urgent care? Do I like, keep in mind, I don't have health insurance. So I'm like, I would rather not go to the ER just like if it isn't that. And so I was trying to wait it out. I was trying to pray. I was trying to discern like, do I just wait it out? What do I do? Thank God, again, like within 2 days, like it went away. But to this, and because sometimes it says it can actually like reverse itself. Sometimes it will flip back. So I'm like, I don't know. Did that happen temporarily and then it fixed itself, or like was it just something else completely? To this day, I have no idea. But that was the first time, and that was really scary in November that I wasn't on my period and I was having this massive abdominal pain because I was ovulating. Like the only other thing I could think of was like, well, I am ovulating. I don't know. I'm like, is that what's causing it? Like, is my body like trying to, because that again is when I would typically bleed. I would typically bleed for my period. Then 2 weeks later, basically I would be in ovulation. I would bleed again, like when I was getting 2 periods a month. And I'm like, is that what's going on? I don't know. So again, thank God, no labor contractions, November, December, January, February, even thank God up until March right now, like no massive labor level contraction pain. Like what I had in July and September, but, and a little trick, and again, I'm not trying to give medical advice, but Aaron actually is a genius because after that October day at work when I almost passed out, he was like, I wonder if, because my blood has been tested, I'm not anemic. I've never been told I'm low on iron, never been told I'm anemic. But he was like, I wonder if only when you're on your period, your body's iron like dips and you become anemic, and that's why you're almost passing out. So starting in late October, I started taking an iron supplement only the first like 3 to 4 days that I'm actually on my period bleeding. And I have not had a single incident since of almost passing out, getting lightheaded, anything. So if any of you are experiencing that, I really just go get an iron supplement and try it and just see if that takes care of it. Because for me, like, I honestly think like he hit the nail right on the head, and like that was probably what was going on. So thankfully that fixed that. At least it seems to have fixed that. So then we come to January. I go to this appointment with this regional specialist, and this was the first doctor that literally came in, sat in the stool in the room, and he goes, "Tell me your story." I've never had a doctor talk to me like that. I've never had a doctor like just so like, again, in an empathetic, sympathetic way, been like, tell me what's going on. So I basically, again, try to condense 9 years worth of information in 5 or so minutes, tell him everything I basically just told you guys in a nutshell. And he has my, test results, of course. And, he does a pelvic exam, and I tell him, I'm like, listen, the last pelvic exam, I'm like, I'm in tears. It hurts. Like, I don't know what's going on, but like, I'm in a lot of pain. And he goes, okay, like, and I could tell he felt so bad, because he was like, I'm trying to be so gentle, so cautiously slow, and like doing the bare minimum he had to do the pelvic exam. Like, I understand you have to do it, but like, I'm just like, I'm in pain, and like, I'm wincing. I'm like, tennis grunting, and he's like, and I could just tell like he actually like he felt bad. And I'm not trying to make him feel bad, but I appreciated that, because I'm like, okay, a doctor who actually acknowledges like I'm in pain, and like you actually feel bad that like you're kind of hurting me right now, even though I know it's necessary. So he was so great about that, like just very kind. I found out that he's a believer too. I believe he's like Catholic, but he believes as well. I found that out at the end of the appointment, and I felt like it was a good sign, because when I came in to check in, the lady at the reception desk had like the mini Jesuses, if you know, like those mini Jesus dolls. She had those on her desk, and I was like, oh. And I like Miranda, my friend, went with me to the appointment, so I didn't have to drive there and drive back all by myself. And I didn't know if they were going to take blood. Like, I didn't know what to expect. So I was like, I shouldn't go by myself in case I can't drive home for whatever reason. And I sat back down. I was like, she has like the mini Jesus dolls in the window. She's like, I think that's a good sign. Like, I think we're in good hands. So he was so nice. And so he, lets me get myself together. He comes back in the room, and he's like, he sits across from me. He was like, you have endometriosis. He was like, there's no doubt in my mind. Like, like everything you're telling me, the scans, like you have endometriosis. And I just started crying, because it's one thing to like know that inherently. It's another thing to actually have a medical professional sitting across from you saying that. And also just finally like the relief that I felt in having a diagnosis after 9 years. I just was like there was just like a weight that just was like, oh my God, like somebody finally like actually said like what is actually going on. And it was a weird, bittersweet thing, because it's like I didn't want to pray that I had endometriosis, but I was praying that I would just get like an answer. And again, even just the way that I found this guy through that random phone call, because Allie P's like, well, call my functional medicine doctor. I was like, that was just a whole God thing. Like, I really believe like he just orchestrated that for me to like get to this guy in this small town that I would have never probably found otherwise. And, he did just what he was just very like, like, this is one of the highest causes of infertility in women. He's like, I would recommend like if you're going to get married anytime soon, like you start having kids like right away, or start trying to have kids right away. Like he just kind of laid it out, and he's like, you do need surgery. He's like, we got to go in and we got to get what's in there out. There's really like no other cure. There's no other treatment plan. There's no other way around it. Like, they have to go in and take it out. So that was a lot of information. Obviously, it was like, I was very glad to have Miranda there with me. Came home, told Faith, told Aaron, called my parents. And it's just emotional, just hard. Again, relieving that you finally have an answer, but it's also like, well, it's not the answer I was, hoping it would be. And, then that started so I, schedule a surgery with them supposed to be in May. And long story, like I'm really close to the end, I promise. That basically then that ensued in like a couple weeks conversation between my mom finding out some information about another doctor that is not in the state of Ohio. He's in the US, but not in Ohio. And he basically, so she found out about this because my parents live in Amish country. My parents live in the middle of nowhere. There's Amish everywhere. And these Amish women, one of which I think had like worked for my mom, helping her clean the house at one point in time, had endometriosis, had to go get a surgery. So my mom starts kind of being like, well, where did you go? Who did you go to? Like, how did that, like, what was the recovery? Asking questions. And then that turned into like several women just in our direct neighboring town have been to this doctor outside of Ohio. And my mom starts asking them questions about their experience with him, and we start researching, and it just gets like a little bit more evident as time is going on that like maybe this is like a better option. I presented it to my Bible study group, and this is when I'm going to say who you have in your life and in your circle really, really matters. My mom, I love you so much, and I'm so blessed for you, and dad, like both of you, both of my parents being so insistent in finding out information about this other surgery option, and both of them being like, honey, we love you, but like we really think like this might be the better way to go. Like I would not be getting the surgery that I'm going to be getting the week that this episode is coming out, actually. I would not be getting that surgery if it was not for my parents. So thank you, Mom and Dad, just all the way around. Like you guys, I'm trying not to get emotional. I love you. I'm very thankful for you both. I've been praying mass amounts of blessing over both of you. Because of your love and sacrifice for me. So thank you for just loving me well. Because I know not everybody has parents that would do the things that my parents are doing for me in this situation. And so I'm very grateful. But all that to say, my mom was like really insistent on like getting this information. My dad started, like the more my mom was telling him, my dad's like, hey, like, I think this actually, like, we need to consider this as an option, which, meant something, because my dad's not going to just be like casually like, oh yeah, let's just like go out of state, go get it done somewhere else. Like me and him both were like, this makes no sense. Like this is kind of ridiculous. But then the more he found out, he was like, no, like we need to actually consider this. So basically this doctor that all these Amish women went to out of the state of Ohio, he has patented his own type of surgery, basically, where I'm still, the reason that I have not like memorized / like looked at this extensively, I know my mom has, I know Aaron has, is because I didn't want to know like a lot about the surgery. I didn't want to know too much information because it's kind of already like stressful enough as it is. I'm like, I don't know how much I actually want to know about it. But again, knowledge is power. And basically the best way I can summarize it, and you can look this up for yourself, is I believe it's called the Eve surgery. It's patented by this doctor who 15 years ago, he did the first ever one where it combines what most doctors would do, which is a typical laparoscopy surgery, where they kind of scrape and burn away the endometrioma cells, and it combines like this other process of, again, it's like combined like scraping, burning, and vaporization, which doesn't that sound so fun that that's going to be happening in my body? Yay. Again, this is why I didn't want to know like too much ahead of time, but it basically is a different like take on the laparoscopy. And in the 15 years of him doing this, only 7% of the patients that have gotten the surgery done have had to come back to get another surgery because the endometriosis has grown back. This is huge because as nice and as kind as the guy that I went to in Ohio was, he kind of looked at me and was like, we just don't know. He was like, you might have to do this every 2 to 5 years, because basically, and this is where the doctor that I did not have a good experience with wasn't wrong about the birth control being effective, in that if you don't have a period, the endometriosis doesn't grow back. If you're going to continue to have a monthly cycle and a monthly period, the endometrioma grows back. But this patented way that this doctor does it seems to have a much longer lasting and effective way of keeping the endometrioma from growing back, or from growing back rapidly, or to the extent that it obviously has now. Now, where that doctor and all of the OBGYNs are so wrong to tell any woman who does in fact have endometriosis to just take birth control is really just masking the problem. And it's really just like, I honestly am thankful that I never went on birth control for any long period of time, not just because of all the other crazy side effects that are part of doing that, but for the sole purpose of even just like, you wouldn't even know how bad you got and how bad the endometriosis had like spread if you were like masking it by not having like an actual period, and like, oh, so I'm not in pain, or I'm not cramping, or I'm not throwing up, or I'm not having these symptoms. And it's like, that actually is almost doing you a disservice, because you're blocking your body's like natural way of telling you that something's wrong. And so again, another reason I'm not a fan of birth control, especially in cases like this. It's not an answer. It's really a Band-Aid, and it's really, I think, a really bad and a really devastating Band-Aid to put on a problem like this. But basically, like, you know, the guy was like, everyone's different. We just don't know. Like, you might be back in 2 to 5 years. And I just remember, like, that was my biggest thing. Is I said to Miranda, and I said to Aaron and Faith when I told my parents, I was like, I was like, that's not a solution to me. Again, like, I'm like, that's not an answer. Like, for me to have to undergo this surgery every 2 to 5 years, like, until I'm in menopause or something, like, I'm like, that's just not an answer to me. And so learning more about this Eve, you know, type of way that they do this surgery, it's just like, okay, I think this just makes the most amount of sense. I brought it to my Bible study group. I said, listen, I basically have to make a decision that I either go here or I go here. And I, you know, this is where the people who are in your life are so important, because it's like, these people not only, like, immediately they were like, we're fasting, we're praying for you for the week. Like, we are going to fast and pray that you like feel peace about a decision, that you're able to make a decision, that you're able to just feel at peace with whatever decision you make, because either option was kind of like, it could work, but we just didn't know. Again, it's like a toss up. Like, nobody knows like how well is it going to work or anything. And so they fasted and prayed for me for a week. It was really beautiful. And actually one of them, my friend Kevin in the group, he actually, when we discussed it, you know, at the end of the week, I was kind of like, hey, do you guys feel like you got anything, like anything happening? There's kind of been like this repeated feeling overall that there's like, that this is spiritual, that there's like a spiritual attack on my womb, both like physically and like metaphorically, like in a spiritual way, that there's this like war happening. And so he just actually brought like that, not only that to the forefront, that he felt like he had gotten in his time of prayer over me, but then also as we're talking about like scheduling the surgery, like, hey, I think it's going to be in March. He was like, because I had mentioned to him like 2 weeks prior, I finally told him about that worship night in June. I finally told him about June 16th, that worship night where I felt like the Lord was like, hey, you're going to be healed. And he was kind of like, when was that? And I had to go back in the calendar because I knew it was in June, but I didn't know the date. And I said it, and he was like, what's 9 months from that day? And we all counted, and we're like, March 16th. And we were like, wow. Like, I think all of us just kind of, I was obviously probably the most done, but I think all of us just sat there in a moment of silence, and we were so taken aback in like the best way possible that the Lord had been that intentional this whole time. From June to now, March, it's like that 9-month gestation, that 9-month period of carrying something that you feel like you're about to deliver, you feel like you're about to give birth to. And I literally just almost like jumped up out of my seat, and I was like, you cannot tell me anything about my God. Like, you can't tell me nothing that the Lord will not do, that the Lord will not, like, I couldn't have planned this. Like, again, even like I had to wait 3 months to get into the specialist, that now I'm not even getting the surgery through in Ohio. It's like, I couldn't have orchestrated this. And like literally the way that even happened with this doctor out of state, it was like we called, and I just remember praying like, Lord, if this is what I'm supposed to do, make it smooth. Like, make it like the quickest boom, boom, boom thing. And literally at every turn, basically, especially with the doctor himself, it was like I called or I sent in the packet that they had sent me, like a pre-patient packet, just to make sure they have everything, to make sure you even qualify for the surgery, because obviously they want to make sure you actually have endometriosis before they're just, cutting you open, doing their due diligence, which I appreciate. And I send the packet in the same day. The girl, the receptionist calls me, and she was like, do you want to schedule a tentative date? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, because I was so stressed out, because I was like, I don't know when I'm getting the surgery. I'm like, am I going, like, when am I going? Like, is it even happening in March? Is it, when in March is it happening? Because we're talking about like, we have to go out of state. Like, this isn't just like drive, an hour and then like, that's it. There's like flights that have to be done and lodging and everything. And so I'm like, yes, please. And so she gives me an option of dates, and I literally had just got asked to do a job, and I was like, oh, this is going to be the last time I'm able to work for probably 4 to 6 weeks for my recovery. And I was like, cool. So I like do the one date with her, and she's like, okay, you're in the calendar. Like, as long as nothing crazy happens, like where the doctor determines you're not eligible for the surgery, like this will be your surgery date. Great. Literally 20 minutes after I get off the phone with her with that, she's like, hey, we basically just opened up another like pre-op appointment this Saturday. Like, do you want to talk to the doctor this Saturday? Because if not, you're going to be waiting like 2 weeks. And then that just like pushes every other phone call with them and paperwork with them back. And I was like, oh my God, like, yeah, yes, I'm available this Saturday. Let's do it. So me and my mom like talked to the doctor that Saturday, like, because this was on a Thursday that she had called me, and it was just like boom, 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 boom. And then it's like my parents got the flights booked. We had like a slight issue with lodging, but then again, the Lord ends up doing, better than we could ask, think, or imagine, where the original place I thought I was staying, my mom was hesitant for a couple of reasons, understandably so. Mainly that we didn't have 2 bathrooms. And I was like, that makes sense because, things are going on. We probably should have at least 2 bathrooms. And I ended up finding a place that I actually like better. It's going to be way more spacious for us. It has like a balcony. I can go sit out, like as I'm like recovering before we fly home, and it's closer to the doctor's office and the pharmacies, right? That like, it just actually, I think, ended up being like the better place. And, so again, at every turn, I just felt so much peace about this decision. Again, as crazy as it is, like kind of doing all of this to go out of state to a doctor, it's just, I think it just makes sense. So here we are, 9 months later almost from that worship night, when I didn't want to believe, and I didn't want to have hope, and I didn't want to trust, because I was so scared, because I'd been let down so many times before. But it's like, when am I going to learn that the Lord never fails? The Lord never lets you down. Medical professionals will, prescriptions will, but the Lord never will. And 9 months, I've been carrying this, and it's like, I just feel like he's like, it's time. It's like, I felt like the other day I was like in a moment of just like, quiet time with him, and I just felt like he was like Like, it's time that we get you healed. Like, you have a lot to do. Like, we have a lot to do. And I'm like, yeah, like, let's go do it. And I think I want to speak to this because I think it's very easy sometimes to get wrapped up in how we want healing or how we expect to receive healing. And I think that we can get into this mind because, again, I could have just been like, well, Lord, like, and by all purposes, we know, like, he could just heal me. It's like, Lord, you could just heal my body, and he could do that. And it could be immediate, like we just saw in the story of the woman with the issue of blood for 12 years. And that's true. And sometimes that's how he does it. But other times, and I think more times than not, it's this process of, because what I have gotten as reliant on him, what I have gotten this mature in my relationship and in my growth spiritually, if he had just healed me immediately, arguably probably not. Also, it's like you never have any idea like who I could come in contact with, whether it's a nurse or a doctor. It's like you have no idea like also why he may be like sending you into that surgical room. Like you have no idea who you may meet or impact or plant a seed or like the picture is so much bigger than me. And that's the thing is like you can have your time to throw yourself your little pity party and play on your tiny violin and be like, woe is me. This is hard. This sucks. I don't want to do it. And I still have those moments sometimes, like, especially as we're getting closer to the surgery date. I'm like, I don't want to go do this. I don't want, like, this does not sound fun. But then I think of what did the Lord do for me? I am suffering is part of this world and as part of being a Christian, like to suffer as Christ has suffered, like is then also to be raised with him in glory as he has been raised in glory. And so it's like, okay, God, big picture, this could be way worse. Like I could have something way worse going on. I have an answer. I have a diagnosis. I have really, really good support around me, financially, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, like people like praying over me, praying over this decision, praying and believing with me that this is going to bring about healing. And that's the thing is like healing doesn't always look like what we want it to look like or how we think it should look. And it's like, yeah, but healing might be, hey, you have to get this surgery done. Like the way that the Lord heals is not limited to just him healing you in and through his own power. He can do that, but healing sometimes does look like maybe a medication. Healing does sometimes look like, hey, you have to get a surgery. Healing does, do you see what I'm saying? Like it comes in different packages, and I don't want us to discard or disbelieve the words that the Lord is saying over us and promising to us just because it's showing up in a package that we did not want or did not expect. And so it's been a very humbling, sobering time of processing of just like, okay, Lord, I'm believing that your word is true and it will come to pass and like what you say will be. And if it's by way of surgery, it's by way of surgery. And the other thing I really wanted to point out in this, because if you notice, I got this word on June 16th. July 1st was the beginning of the worst pain that I've ever had related to this ailment. And I'm looking back 9 months at this point, and I'm realizing two things came to my mind. The first is in Exodus 5. There's this passage. It's between verses 3 and 9. And this is where Moses has finally gotten back to Egypt. He goes to Pharaoh and is like, let my people go. We need to worship in the wilderness. Let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness, offering sacrifices to our God. And it says, he said the Pharaoh replied, Moses and Aaron, why are you taking the people away from their labor? Get back to your work. That same day, this is verse 6, Pharaoh gave this order to the slave drivers and overseers in charge of the people. You are no longer to supply the people with straw for making bricks. Let them go and gather their own straw, but require them to make the same number of bricks as before. Don't reduce the quota. They are lazy. That's why they're crying out, let us go and sacrifice to our God. Make the work harder for the people, and so that they keep working and pay no attention to lies. And I wrote probably 2 years ago when I read this passage in my Bible, before God delivers you, life will seem harder than before. Impossible challenges will be thrown your way. It may seem like God is far, but he is near. And here's what you're going through. Your work will be the hardest right before your escape or right before your deliverance. And I had that very humbling moment of this is where it's like Satan likes to sow. Satan actually likes to be the liar. Satan actually likes to sow the seeds of mistrust and unbelief in us and doubt in us, because I could have and I'm not saying, I actually did have a moment where I'm like, in July, where I'm like, Lord, you just told me 2 weeks prior to this that you were going to heal me, and now I am in the worst pain I've ever been in. And it's, again, in our limited human understanding, you could be so tempted in that moment to be like, I guess what God said isn't true. I guess what God promised to me isn't happening. I guess he's not true to his word. I guess he's lying to me. And it's like, no, again, it's just not looking like what you wanted it to look like or what you expected it to look like. And notice how in that moment in worship, I felt like the Lord said that I would be healed. He didn't say how. He didn't say when. He didn't, one piece at a time. Yes, Nicole, you're gonna be healed from this. Yeah. He didn't say how. He didn't say when. And if you knew, see, this goes back to the whole thing of like, we want the full thing, but if you knew that you were going to have to work harder, if you knew that your labor was about to get more intense, okay, Holy Spirit. If you knew that the labor was about to get more intense before the delivery, would you have the child? Would you give birth? Y'all better catch, I'm saying this metaphorically. If the labor is about to get harder and you knew that, just before the birth, just before the joy, just before the deliverance, just before the escape, just before the healing, would you go through it if you knew? And the answer is no, because our human natural reaction is we want to avoid pain. We want to avoid suffering. And so we want to avoid anything that makes us uncomfortable. And with that, then, we would want to avoid, even if it meant freedom on the other side, healing on the other side, deliverance on the other side. We would still want to avoid it. And so the Lord in his wisdom also knew. So this is the second thing I realized in retrospect. He had to get my attention. He had to do something so extreme that it was going to bring me to the uttermost end of myself and my physical, like what I could handle pain-wise physically, to go into the ordering of all of these steps. I still was going to have to get, even if I had like just found this doctor out of state right away, hey, I need the surgery, I still would have had to get the ultrasound. I still would have had to get the MRI, because they need to actually see what's going on, like that there's masses in there and there's cysts in there. I still would have had to do all that. So he was literally ordering, hey, I already lined up. Again, we worry and we get so scared, but it's like, I am the author of life, and I am Alpha and Omega, and I've seen the beginning from the end. And it's like, I've already ordered your steps. Even that appointment with that really bad doctor that you had, I was right there with, and I'm telling you, y'all, I could like tangibly at one moment when she left the room and I was like at my wit's end, I was about to start crying. I like tangibly felt the presence of God in that room with me. Y'all can't tell me nothing. like about my Lord and Savior. Okay. Y'all can't tell me nothing. And it's like moments like these where it's like, hey, this is where you build your altars. This is where you build your festival. This is in 10 years from now when the next thing happens, you go back to this and remember how he brought you through, how he was faithful, how he healed you, how he was with you, even when it was painful, even when you were suffering, even when it was hard. I've asked him so many times throughout this whole day, like, where are you? Where are you right now? Like, I'm suffering. Like, where are you right now? And it's like, there's no joy that he gets out of seeing us suffer. Like, there's no joy that the Lord gets in seeing me writhing in pain like that. But he knew that he had to make it extreme enough to force my stubborn hand to actually go through the steps again of seeking at least partial help from the medical system, because again, I would go and then it wouldn't work and I would just give up, and then I would just suffer for a year and a half until I maybe got a blip of hope for the next thing. And then I would go and it wouldn't work. And then I would just give up, and I would say, and he was like, you can't, like, no, like what I said, like, you're getting healed. And so we got to like go through the steps to get to the healing. And so those were two of the biggest retrospects that I've had in thinking about the intentionality with which he actually orchestrated all of this, and the symbolicness of 9 months from healing, from being told I was going to be healed to surgery, is just something I absolutely could not have. I didn't even know that, like, until it was like 2 weeks ago at group on Sunday. Kevin, like I said, he just was like, wait, when did you say that was? June? He's like, what's 9 months from June? Somebody got a calendar out and counted, and of course, it's March. It's like, you can't, I don't do coincidences. I don't believe in happenstances or mistakes. It's truly just the work of the Lord. And so I want to land the plane here. So I just gave y'all like so much TMI, so much of my medical history. Again, it's under the guise of, and I cling to this specifically. It's 2 Corinthians 1:3-7. It says, "Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. For just as we share abundantly in the sufferings of Christ, so also our comfort abounds through Christ. If we were distressed, it is for your comfort and salvation. If we were comforted, it is for your comfort, which produces in you patient endurance of the same sufferings we suffer. And our hope for you is firm, because we know that just as you share in our sufferings, you will also share in our comfort." That, I could not write that any better if I wanted to myself. That is why I recorded this podcast episode. That is why I just shared everything I just shared, because this is part of my personal testimony and the testament to the goodness, the faithfulness, and the healing powers of the Lord that are still working. He is here, he is present, he is moving. Like, again, I think in America, we don't see a lot of healings. There's some sort of block over our country where it's really hard to receive and to see physical healings. As in, like, you pray over someone and they get healed, like right then and there. We're just not seeing that like you do in other countries. And that's a whole thing. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But my point is like, I need somebody to grab hold, like I grabbed hold of. I talked about at the end of the year, I did, the episode of, to dare to hope. And I talked about my friend with their infertility journey and how I had made that prayer request in my prayer jar, and I got to move it to the answer jar this year. And it's like, I need somebody to cling to everything I'm telling you. Like, I clung to that, where I am suffering. So also I can comfort. And so I pray that when this is reaching whoever this needs to reach, again, this is obviously very targeted towards women, but if you're a man who's sat through all this, God bless you. And also send this and talk about this with your loved ones. Again, if you have a wife, a sister, a mom, a girlfriend that is going through something like this, I want to advocate for women. This podcast platform, yes, is first and foremost about the Lord and to glorify and magnify his name. And I think, again, he will get the glory, and he's already shown off in so many ways just in my story and my testimony of everything I just shared with you. And another part of being, a disciple of the Lord Jesus is going where you have authority. And I feel like I made a post about this before, but in the areas that you have suffered the most is actually where you have the most authority. So because he, for whatever reason, has allowed this ailment of 9 years to be part of my story, I now get to take authority of this. And I now get to share my testimony with you, and I also get to encourage others and comfort others, and I have authority in this area to do so. And so I want there to be an authority in this. I want there to be a hope in this. And the other thing I want to say and touch on is the infertility aspect of this, because I mentioned a little bit ago, it can be really scary when you're sitting there and they're saying, we don't know if you're going to have a problem getting pregnant. We don't know if you can get pregnant. Blah, blah, blah. I need us to be very careful with, I want to be careful how I say this. There needs to be earthly wisdom in what they are telling you. But there also needs to be a level of who is actually in control, who do I serve, who opens and closes the wombs. Go back to that prophetic vision I had. That is the Lord. The Lord is in ultimate control. And so, yes, I can hear, okay, hey, medically, you could have a problem getting pregnant. I'm going to take that and I'm going to say, thank you very much. And then I got to go into my prayer closet. And the other night, the Lord literally had me do this, where he was like, put your hand over your womb, because I was starting to spiral in a fear of like, what if I have infertility? What if I can't have kids because of this? And he was like, no, like, you got to stop those lies at the source, cut them off. Again, what does it say? Every thought take captive and like submit it to the authority of Christ. I'm paraphrasing that verse, but you got to take your thoughts captive. And I literally felt like he was like, put your hand over your womb. And just like Ezekiel does to the bones, where he has to prophesy to the bones and then to the breath. There's two parts to bringing those bones back to life again in Ezekiel. I believe, what is that? Ezekiel 37, I want to say that is. Don't quote me on that 100%. But he's like, put your hand on your womb. And he was like, prophesy. And I literally just like started saying like life will spring forth from here. Life will spring forth from here. Like, you have to speak life where others are wanting you to speak doubt or hesitation or death. You have to speak life into those places, and you have to come against that with the authority of the blood of Jesus and say, I understand that you're telling me from an earthly perspective, from a medical perspective, this could be hard for me, but I'm telling you from a spiritual perspective, from my God's perspective, this ain't nothing but a thing. If he wants me to have a baby, I will have a baby. If he wants to bring life forth out of me, that is what he will do. Point, like, period. Period. You know all those verses where it says like da-da-da-da-da, comma, but God? Yeah, this is one of those but God moments. but God is going to do what God is going to do. And again, it's like, it's been very transformational in my walk with him and with my faith, that again, I don't know if I would have had this level of intimacy, of grounding, of humbling, of maturing, of molding and shaping and stretching if he had just, yes, you're healed. Does that make sense? Like, we gotta go through the suffering. That 2 Corinthians chapter 1 verse, man, like, that is it. And like, it's like, if I'm gonna suffer, like, I want to help you in your suffering, and then I can also comfort you through the same comfort that Jesus has given me. And again, I just like look at this photo, and it's like, you just meditate on that. You just meditate on like what that actually means, that he is carrying you through this. He's holding you through this. I said this before, God is, especially a girl dad, like he loves his sons. Yes, 100%. He loves his daughters. Like, he's just a girl dad. It's just different. It's just different. And that image of like my heavenly Father carrying me through this, yeah, y'all can't tell me nothing. So that has been my journey. That has been, I know I mentioned a couple episodes ago, like I was going through some health stuff. I was waiting on some health stuff. There might have been like little clues that maybe some of you picked up. I just didn't want to say anything until I had, the surgery date solidified. I knew where I was getting surgery. I knew that the Lord had orchestrated this through and through. And I just felt like I could finally tell all of you my story, my journey. And again, I'm just praying that this comforts, but this also like encourages you to go advocate for yourself, to go get help, to not just take no for an answer, to not just take, oh, the only thing we can do is birth control as an answer. Like, be an advocate for yourself, and like healing, I pray is coming your way, and it may be on the other side of surgery. And it's like, that's not what we would prefer. That's not what we would want. But I'm like, Lord, if that's how you're going to heal, if that's how you're going to show up, like, as long as you're showing up and as long as your hand's on it, I'll do it. I will do it. I will do it. I'm going to end with 2 Psalms. The first is Psalm 33:4. This is out of the TPT. It says, he is true to his promises. His word can be trusted, and everything he does is reliable and right. And Psalm 84:6-7 says, even when their paths wind through the dark valley of tears, they dig deep to find a pleasant pool where others find only pain. He gives to them a brook of blessing, filled from the rain of an outpouring. They grow stronger and stronger with every step forward, and the God of all gods will appear before them in Zion. And so with that, I leave you with this episode. I'm going to be pre-recording all of these episodes as I'm out recovering from surgery. Prayers obviously are appreciated. I appreciate you guys watching, making it to the end of this. I pray that a lot of you did. Thank you for listening. I'm grateful to have this platform that I could just share my story so vulnerably with everybody. I pray that this only serves, again, to help, encourage, to advocate, and as a testimony of how good and how faithful our God really is. So I will leave you with all of that. I pray that the Holy Spirit and the Lord still find you and just tug at your heartstrings in his own intimate way with you through this video. And I will see you guys on the next episode of For the One Podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Cute, but dumb. Cute, but stupid.